Greetings. Welcome to another broadcast of I Have a Testimony. I'm your host, Brother Willie Muhammad.
God came to us to seek and to save that which was lost. He raised a man from among us.
He, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, laid the foundation. What I'm doing is something that comes from him through me, and the thing that he uses in me to do the work is my faith in him and the word that he taught. To produce men and women who wanted to clean up their life and build an independent nation for the glory of God.
And we're back. You know, today we are blessed to have as a guest our brother, student minister, Michael Muhammad. He's the founder of Torchlight Interfaith Ministries, and his reputation precedes him. And when I say his reputation as a helper of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I've talked to so many people who say, yo, this is a brother that you need to have on the show. He's an advocate for our people, and I have heard many great things about our brother.
Any relationship to the word of God anymore. Most of us don't have any thought about God from one day to the next. Most of us don't have any real thought about Jesus other than a superficial confession that I'm a Christian and I believe in Jesus, but I don't know a damn thing about Jesus or about Christianity. Who do they say that I am? Is Jesus who we say he is? Is Jesus what we think he is? I'm asking the question. Because if somebody presents to you information about Jesus or perspective about Jesus that you've never heard or you've never been taught, how will you handle that?
Assalamu alaikum, dear brother.
Wa alaikum salam, beloved brother Willie.
Thank you for accepting the invitation to be our guest on this show, man.
It's my great privilege and honor, beloved, to be on this great show, beloved. I thank Allah for the work you're doing, as I know many others do. And I'm just humbled to be a guest on an episode with you, beloved. Thank you.
All praise is due to Allah. I'd like to get straight to the interview. You know, I would like to begin by asking you to share how you were first introduced to the teachings of Islam as taught by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and what made you finally decide to become a follower and helper of his number one student, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
Wow. Well, Brother Willie, what led me to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was, as a young man, I guess I was about 16 years old. I was always a reader, and something led me to want to study all of the world's major religions. And so I was making my way through books on the world's major religions. And so in the course of that, I started to study Islam. And beginning with my study of Islam, and I can't remember how, but I ended up connecting with a brother who was mentoring me about Islam. He was a Sufi Muslim. He gave me my first Holy Quran, and he would do his best to provide insight and instruction to me on Islam. In the midst of that, of course, I was also studying Black scholars and so forth. And so you couldn't get around picking up Message to the Black Man and writings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And so it was a convergence of things. So I started studying Message to the Black Man. And there was a sister who was a nurse. When I was in high school, one of the jobs I had was as a support worker in a residential home for severely mentally retarded clients. And she saw me studying Message to the Black Man. And one day, out of the blue, she came to work with these books. And she put the books and said, "Brother, you can have these. I have no use for them anymore." She was a follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, but with the fall of the nation and the departure of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I guess she just her light of faith went out. And so she had given me all of her lessons and all of these materials, some from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, some were add-ons from whomever. So that took me deeper into it. And at the same time, there's a brother who's passed on now named Steve Coakley. Some people may remember Steve. Great researcher. He taught me how to research. He taught me how to investigate issues and whatnot. He also saw me studying the writings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And Steve said, "Well, it looks like you're serious about studying that, brother. You need to connect with," the way he said it, "you need to connect with Minister Farrakhan." So I had never heard of the minister. I said, "Well, who is that?" He said, "Well, that's the man you need to be with if you're serious about studying the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad." So I said, okay. So I logged that in my brain, but I didn't know anything about the minister. I didn't, at that time, there were no brothers on the street with Muhammad Speaks or the Final Call like that. It was a very small group of believers with the minister at that time. And so by the grace of Allah, one winter day, I got in a cab. It was so cold. At that time, I didn't have my own transportation. I was a teenager. And it was so cold, I had to get out of the cold because I'm here in Chicago. And I flagged the cab down. The cab pulls over. I get in the cab. As soon as I'm settled in the seat in the cab, I could hear a man, oh my God, on fire. He's just preaching. The brother that's driving the cab has a tape cassette on the front seat. I said, "Brother, who is that?" And he said, "That's Minister Farrakhan." I said, "What?" I said, "Where can I find him?" So the brother had some flyers to the meeting or what have you. And so that's really what motivated me to follow through on what Brother Steve had told me. And so I was a student leader in my high school. And so I created a group of about 50 brothers under my leadership. The impetus of the group was to not let gang culture, the negatives of gang culture, and particularly gang violence, invade our high school campus. And so most of the top brothers in the school, in terms of athletes and most of a lot of the so-called thugs even, were part of my group. And so, and then I was over couple other organizations, not to brag or boast, but what I'm saying is I was in a position that when it was time to have a guest speaker, I was able, because of my work already, my organizing already, and the respect I had from the principal, assistant principal, other significant members of the faculty and staff at my high school, I was the only student on committees to arrange speakers to come in, around Black history or whatever. So the next opportunity I had, I tracked the minister down. I can't even tell you, brother, Exactly how I wound up getting a contact for the minister, I'm really not sure, Brother Willie, when I think back on it, but the brother, some kind of way I got a number. No, I remember now that you've asked me this question. I started taking my brothers in the organization, the 50 brothers. I would take my officers. I found out where the minister was meeting from Brother Gerald, who became the first minister under the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in Gary, Indiana. He gave me the flyer. So I would take my officers to the meeting. At that time, the minister was meeting in Inglewood at a brother named Reverend Bishop Porter, a very pro-Black preacher, theologian. You know, he's one of those icons in the movement here in Chicago. And so out of all of that movement and activity, I was able to get a number for the minister, and my contact in the beginning was Brother Willie Muhammad, who was the first acceptor, if you will, the first one to sign on after the minister had his great awakening at the prodding and nudging and whatnot of our brother Minister Jabril. Wahid was that first one. And so he always facilitated a way for me to speak with or meet with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And that led to this, what I call a mentor-protege relationship, where he would invite me to his home. Sometimes I would bring a few of the officers of my group, and you know, he would just do his best to pour into us as young men. And so we graduated from high school. Many of my peers, we went all over the country, and our plan was a very radical plan. We wanted to create a student group across the nation. We wanted to create a national organization because we had all of these peers of ours that were at different Black universities. And so we had started to organize this group. And in the middle of that, there's a brother out of Atlanta. I don't know if he's still active or not, Brother Barrett. Brother Barrett out of Atlanta would come to Tuskegee campus where we were, where I was and several of my peers were. And they were trying to, you know, get the students involved, start a study group there, but you know, they were being rejected. They couldn't make any traction at all. And so just seeing that, I told the brothers, I said, you know, we're going to put our thing on hold. I said, we cannot allow this to happen to the minister on our campus. We're going to make sure we help the brothers create a study group. And so that's what we did. We would have a room packed full of brothers to listen to Brother Barrett, study the words and teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And that started me on the formal path. I came back from Tuskegee, had financial difficulty. Of course, I started processing and recited back in Chicago, because the work I was doing in Tuskegee to help the minister, it just propelled me to completely formalize myself as a registered believer from all of the culmination of everything.
And praise be to Allah. And we're coming up. I know this would be probably a challenge. If you can, in 2 minutes, I know if you can briefly share like how you came to be involved in the ministry. I know in before we go to break, this quick 2 minutes, and some of the cities that you served over.
Yes. Well, wow. Almost from the beginning, I was being asked to speak. Because when I met the minister, he met me as a speaker. And so he always spoke to me in that direction. And so, but I never, the ideal of being a minister was not in my mind. I was taught to speak from the 6th grade from another mentor I had in elementary school, who taught me to speak and act and all of these kind of things. So quickly, I was a part of the ministry class from the beginning. From day one, from the time that I registered, I was always a participant in the ministry class from that moment moving forward.
Wow. And what were some of the cities you labored in as a student minister?
Well, primarily, of course, here in Chicago, but I'm the first one to venture out into the southern suburbs of the Chicago area and lay the groundwork to start study groups in the cities peripheral to Chicago, in the south west, and mainly the southwest suburbs of Chicago. From there, the main cities that I served in was Kansas City, Missouri, which gave me, I was also responsible for Kansas City, Kansas. We opened study groups in Wichita, Kansas, and Topeka, Kansas.
Wow.
And I served as the assistant to Brother Minister Ishmael Muhammad for maybe 6 or 7 years. So in helping him, he frequently would dispatch me to different cities for whatever reason to help him resolve.
Beautiful. We're coming up on our first.
I'm sorry, I cannot leave out the mighty west side of Chicago.
Yeah, I heard that too. You did put in some work there as well. So we're coming up on our first break, my dear brother. And I know those who are watching, you see our brother is rich with substance and history and the work that he's done. So we'll be back. Make sure you stay tuned. Ask others to tune in, and we'll be back with our interview with our brother Michael Muhammad.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Your support helps us to highlight solutions for a brighter tomorrow. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.
Now you can get the same uncompromising truth you've come to expect from the Final Call newspaper on all your connected devices. Subscribe to the Final Call Digital Edition today. Go to subscribe.finalcalldigital.com.
The hashtag #BankBlack social media campaign made strides not only in revolutionizing how we bank, but also how we think. The movement inspired thousands of African Americans across the country to transfer or deposit millions of dollars into Black-owned banks. These are banks that will invest in urban communities, employ African Americans, support Black businesses, and inspire Black home ownership. This is a very proud moment for our culture as we are taking small, but significant, steps towards building Black power through Black wealth.
Please share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel at National Network View. I am Anissa Muhammad with nnvnews.com.
And we're back, brothers and sisters. Thank you all for tuning in with our brother to continue this interview, Brother Michael Muhammad, who shared with us how he came to the Nation of Islam, and also how he became a part of the ministry. One of the things that I want to ask you, that I found this out, and it's actually news to me in history, so I'm really interested in hearing this, that in addition to the ministry, I was informed that you helped to play a role in the development of the E-Team, which provides security for our beloved teacher, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, kind of a segment of security, because we know that ultimately Allah secures him. So can you talk about that with us?
Yes, sir. That's an interesting question, because I've heard so many interviews where people don't really know the actual facts of the history of the team. It is factual and correct for me to say that the ideal for the E-Team was Allah inspired me with that ideal as a young Muslim. And so I was blessed and inspired to do a lot of research around executive security, and put together a curriculum, a method of training, and process of recruiting FOI, mainly here in Chicago, to serve as members on, at that time, what we called the escort team. We called it the escort team because there were those outstanding brothers, such as our Supreme Captain, Brother Mustafa Muhammad. You may remember Brother Salim Muhammad, Captain Dennis Muhammad, and a few others. So we would travel with the minister when we could. We would pool our resources and try to travel around the country with the minister. So he always felt good seeing the brothers from headquarters show up. And so we would do that as frequently as we could. And so in that experience, I saw a need to have a formal, organized unit that would support Brother Mustafa, Brother Salim, and those brothers who, they weren't there at every city, neither were we. We would, in the early days, we were all doing the best we could to make sure we supported, covered, and protected our leader. And so that's what inspired me to start the team. And so we just started to go to work, and we continued that model. We pooled our resources. In the beginning, we drove whatever cars we had available. But as time went on, we would make sure we got, at that time, the Lincoln Town car was the car of choice for the detail. Mm-hmm. So we tried to make sure we had appropriate cars. We tried to make sure that whatever hotel the minister was staying in, we put together enough money that we would buy our own hotel rooms and all of that, so that we would be there to provide that second layer of protection and security for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in as many cities as we could afford to do so. And so that was the origin. There's a brother who is my former father-in-law, Brother Ali Muhammad, former Supreme Captain, who I was very close to. And so by him being an older brother, by him being a man who was a follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in the 70s, and having some opportunity to be exposed to the honor guard of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I just felt, as a younger brother, my focus was really ministry. Even though I was involved on the military side, I worked my way through the ranks, as we all do, squad leader, lieutenant, blah, blah, blah. But I just felt that it was a good look to have Brother Ali more out front than myself. And so some people think that Brother Ali was the founder, but he was there in the beginning, but he will tell you, he can validate what I'm saying to you.
Praise be to Allah.
Yeah, so later on, I decided that I would not participate with the team anymore because I wanted to get better in the ministry.
Mm.
And there's two different energies there.
Yes, sir, definitely.
And I didn't, you know, I just made a decision that I would move away from that and focus on helping through the ministry.
Yes, sir. Well, I want to get to these other questions, and thank you for that history, man. I'm glad that we're able to get you on record talking about it. In preparing for this interview, I also found out that during the summer of 2012, when the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan walked through some of the neighborhoods of Chicago, that from my research, you helped to facilitate some of the groundwork. So in these before we go into our next break, can you talk about some of the things that you helped to do to help facilitate that?
Yes, sir, Brother Willie. Another fact of my walk with the minister is I'm the first national youth minister.
Mm-hmm.
So when the minister met me, when we met each other, I was seeking, part of the counsel I was seeking from the minister was I was already working with this gang issue.
Mm.
And so, you know, he would guide me. He would direct me. No, brother, don't say that. Say this. Don't do that. Do this. Right. And so when I became a registered follower of his, I continued to organize young people. And so that's what allowed me to have the honor of being the first one to be called a national youth minister. And so the work just continued from there. He assigned me to be his official liaison to the street organizations. And so I just continued to try to organize the brothers to support the minister and around peace initiatives, brokering peace, settling issues in the community. That work, I just continued along the lines in that work. And so it gave me, Allah blessed me with a measure of success. And it allowed me to give a representation of the minister that by the grace of Allah, it motivated the leaders of these street organizations to have a great deal of respect for the minister. Our work contributed to that because, of course, the minister commands respect enough on his own, but it makes a difference if we can show up as his helpers and have a character and a presentation and representation that is in line with his spirit and his preaching. And so the brothers, there's a tremendous amount of love for the minister in the leadership of these street organizations. And so I will only say that the work we did prior to the minister actually doing his neighborhood tour, we just help set a tone so that whenever he decides to go in a neighborhood, the leadership will let everybody know that's our man and nothing better happen to that man because that's our man. I was blessed on so many different occasions, brother. I think the history will show that I've taken more street organization leaders to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, especially here in Chicago, than anyone. We took about 60 leaders to the palace. The minister was so gracious. He fed everybody. He heard everybody. he poured into everybody. And I was really just trying to get about 20 brothers to go see the minister. I was trying to hopefully position it. I wanted the meeting to go well so that he would at least meet with 20 of the key leaders once a month or once every other month and keep pouring guidance into the street, because when I get them to a point, it's only so far I can take them. I had to find a way. I've always tried to get them to God's man, right?
Beautiful.
And so I've done that on multiple occasions, brother. Multiple occasions.
Beautiful.
One time we brought over 450 leaders and rappers and entertainers to the minister.
Yes, sir.
So I mean, I have many episodes of that, Brother Willie. So
beautiful, man. Beautiful, my brother.
In that way, yes.
Beautiful. And this time is going by so fast. We're up on our next break.
Yes, sir.
And after this break, we're going to come back. But there's an idea that just popped up in my head, and we'll talk off camera about that. But we'll be back with our brother who's loving the history that he's given us here on I Have a Testimony, Brother Michael Muhammad. Make sure you continue to share the interview. Peace.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Your support helps to combat false media. Cash App NNV News.
AsiaticMinds.com. Online education, helping our children to discover their God-given skills, gifts, talents, and passion that will allow them to see their greatness, as well as the greatness of our people. And upon discovering that greatness, infusing them with the desire to use it for the betterment of themselves, their families, our people, and the world. 2022 through 23 enrollment waiting list open now. Visit AsiaticMinds.com.
Worldwide, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Download the Final Call Radio app and take us everywhere. On your phone, on your computer, on your tablet, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also log on to finalcall.com and click the Listen Live button, or finalcallradio.com. Final Call Radio, the official voice of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam.
Thank you for tuning in to NNV News. Please share your thoughts with us in the comments section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel, National Network View. This is Clifton Muhammad with NNVnews.com.
Sound like my brother. Now, can you? I can't hear you now. Ain't this something, bro? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
It's the first time that this has happened, but we're gonna work through it. So, brother, Musa, I would appreciate we hold off on those next breaks. Let's try to get in. So, question I wanted to ask you before this thing froze up. You know, you kind of mentioned that. You kind of mentioned it. What guidance did the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan give you regarding the Peace Street Coalition that you can share with us? Guidance that you can share with us.
Oh, the Street Peace Corps. That's another group that that I created along with the brothers who work with me. Actually, it was not my intention to create another formal group. I was having weekly meetings, or we were having weekly meetings with key individuals throughout the city of Chicago at that time who had some level of influence. And so several of the brothers kept asserting that they had a solution to stop some of the killings in the city. And so our position was, okay, we will support you if you can lay it out for the rest of the brothers on how this will work for them and their respective groups and organizations. Well, these brothers were not able to do that. And so out of that activity, the brothers said, well, brother, you organize it for us and we will participate, but you organize. And so that's where the Street Peace Coalition grew out of that effort, that energy. Mm-hmm. And so that's a completely separate group from Torchlight Interfaith Ministries. It deals exclusively with a strategy to get the whole community involved in changing neighborhood culture, because the violence is not a one-dimensional thing, as you know, Brother Willie. It's a multifaceted, multi-dimensional thing, and you cannot compartmentalize the violence from so many of the other parts of the culture of a community. It just doesn't work that way. And so that's a work we've done all over the city. In fact, we're planning now, each summer we choose a different neighborhood to have an impact on. And so this summer we're going to be going to a city called Harvey, which is a south suburb of Chicago. So I let the brothers choose, I don't, the brothers choose which community they want to go in, and then I just provide the organizational, the vision, the organizational concept and strategy on how to have an impact. And so our biggest work was what I mentioned, or our biggest event, I'll say. I mentioned that earlier when we took these 60 leaders to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan at the National House. Because I never do the work looking to make people my followers. I consider myself a student and a helper of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So I try to get people ready in a proper state of mind and spirit to meet and receive what God wants them to have from his man.
Praise be to Allah.
So so we took the entertainers and some of the leaders first. And what was the name of the lecture? I don't know why I can't think of it.
I remember because I remember being there.
Attack or something to that. I can't remember. Yeah. So
I remember and they were all at the Salam as well. And let me get these questions in too. He's gonna pull up this picture, and I just love the energy that this picture gives off. I came across as you greeting Mother Khadijah. Can you talk to us about? We have about 7 more minutes. We're gonna try to get a little bit more in, but can you talk with us about how significant she is to our nation.
Brother, there really are not sufficient words to describe that. Mother Khadijah is such a rare woman. Her energy, her spirit, her perspective, her attitude, the way she handles people. Oh man, she is like a cornerstone for the rebuilding of the nation of Islam. She worked tirelessly behind the scenes when her husband was in front. And so she was in there with her sleeves rolled up from the time I came around, counting the money and holding, making sure the finances and making sure different things and operations would not fall by the wayside. Mother Khadijah, it's hard to find a better model, in my opinion, of a woman, a wife, a sister, a voice. Her spirit is impeccable. She is like a steady, her presence is just very calming. It's a very steady presence. It's a very humbling presence. She just, I find it difficult to describe her because her energy is so special. Her way is so gentle but powerful that she is a great example of, I believe, what Master Farrakhan Muhammad and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad aspired to instill in all of our daughters and our women.
Beautiful, man. Beautiful words in saying that. And often I ask this question, and I would definitely want to ask the same question to you, to the guests who come on the show, because this show is titled, I Have a Testimony. If you had the opportunity to stand before the world and testify of, let's just say, one quality of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, I know that there's so many, what quality would that be and why?
What quality would that be?
Or qualities?
First of all, the minister epitomizes humility. If you think about how God has used the minister, I mean, we hear him talk about himself on the rostrum, right? But if you meet him off of the rostrum, it's the only way you can really understand how profoundly humble he is. He never exalts himself above people, even when they're disrespectful or a little insulting to his intelligence. The minister's humility, he's if not a perfect example, near a perfect example of humility and patience, two of the hardest qualities for us to develop as human beings. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is so patient, and I just have to bear witness as one of his many students. He has been so patient with me since I've been under his wing, any kind of way connected to him. The level of patience he's afforded me, brother, is reason enough to just bow down and thank Allah for he's I mean, his patience, his humility, and his love for the believers, yes, but his love for people, irrespective of whether or not they are part of our thing or whatever, his love for people, it's just a pure love, Brother Willie. He's just the kind of man that every human being needs in their life. And it's only a miracle of Allah to have a man who's so magnanimous even toward his enemies, that, you know, you really deserve whatever you get for speaking ill of this man and this brother, because I've never met a man like him, and that's why I joined him, because when I was younger, I was around most of the other Black leaders. I never had the thought to join them. It wasn't until I met the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan that I said, you know, I have to submit all the way to him, because he's just that type of man that, oh brother, he's such a loving person, brother, that not to be played with. I'm not saying that. Yeah. I'm not talking about no milquetoast love. He will chasten you, but even that, you feel so loved. After you lick your wounds, you feel so loved in his correction, his reprimand, or even if he's chastising you. If your heart is right, you when you settle down, you feel so loved and so touched, and you start to realize how he adds to your character even when he's correct.
Wow. Do you know, I always try to see if I like hearing those stories where people can give like an example of something they observed or even experience where they had with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan that shows this quality being in action with him. Do anything come to mind where you have something that you experienced or something you saw in this interaction with somebody else that shows his love, shows his humility and or his patience?
There are many, brother. You know, I was talking to a brother recently about the son of one of the laborers under the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who was, you know, trying to defame the minister to this brother. And the brother had a conversation with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and the minister revealed a perfect example of the work he does that he never talks about, how he paid for this brother and his family's expenses for I don't know how many years. And this is what he does. Many of the people who there's so many people that in this town in particular who at one occasion or another have spoken ill of the minister, but never tell of his beneficence to them by holding them up in some kind of way. The last one I mentioned, that was kind of general because I'm trying not to say the names of these.
Gotcha.
But the name I will say is Dr. Khalid. Dr. Khalid, great brother in many regards. But Dr. Khalid ran into a phase where he was oppositional to the minister. And I witnessed the minister go out of his way to try to reach our brother, to try to console our brother, to try to guide our brother, to just try to hold on to our brother in a way that he didn't necessarily, most of us probably would not have gone that far. He continued to show affection, if you will, consideration, patience, and love for the brother, even when brother felt it necessary to openly oppose him. The minister was so gracious and so tender and so patient that he never, as far as I could see, he never gave up hope that brother would come back around and assume his nearness to him, if you will. So yes, there are many examples of what I'm trying to say.
And we thank you for sharing those two examples, man, because that is a lot. And I want to ask you this, You know, I came across a photo of you and the hip hop producer No ID. How did you two become to have a relationship?
Yes, our actual connection was facilitated by a brother who is No ID's protege, a brother named Christopher Muhammad.
Hmm.
And Christopher is close with No ID, right? And so No ID needed someone to perform his wedding. And for whatever reason, for whatever reason, he was willing to allow me to perform the wedding, uh, which I'm very grateful for. He had a beautiful wedding, beautiful bride. They're still together, just had their first child. And so in the course of that interaction, I'm able to periodically speak with brother, have communication with him on the teaching. Sometimes we have private ciphers, if you will, on various questions that a small group of brothers may have about the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad or what the minister said or whatever, and they will get me on the phone and allow me to give my view or my opinion of the problem at hand. And so he's such a powerful man in that industry that I never try to impose myself upon his time or anything like that. Even though he always shows me great respect, I try to not be the one to call him randomly and that kind of thing. I kind of wait for he or Brother Christopher to connect me to Brother No ID.
And you know, despite us having that technical issue, we still getting a lot of these questions, and that I'm thankful to a lot that we want to ask. But I want to ask you this as well, as we talked about it off off the camera before we start, and you kind of mentioned this. You know, I've watched several parts of some of your videos from the Torchlight Interfaith Ministries, and I told you I went through the Facebook page and kind of by Allah's grace see the strategy of it. So can you share with us what this ministry is, why you established it, and what are you working to achieve?
Well, yes, great question. Well, simply I established it. I heard the minister say in a lecture a long time ago how he was trying out the tricks of knowledge. Because, of course, in our lessons, we are taught how Yaqub taught the devil tricknology, right? And so the effort is to communicate in such a way that the whole effort is trying to reach lost founds. Let me say that outright. It's not geared toward registered believers. I really don't like, I'm not going to preach to the choir, if you will. The mission is to deliver the dead to the Lamb of God. And so I'm asking Allah to inspire me to present messages on a topic of interest for non-registered Muslims, and to present them with information, questions, challenges to their lack of faith or their faith that will hopefully deepen their faith. And in that process, realize that, hey, this is a brother with the name Muhammad who's teaching me these things about Jesus and about my Bible. I'm hoping to stoke some curiosity that they will look behind me and say, well, who is that man he has on that wall behind him every time he puts one of these videos up? Or how is this brother named Muhammad able to convey such information about the Bible and about Jesus that I'm not getting from my pastor? So I'm trying to throw throw the reel out. I'm trying to cast the line out so we can help our people understand that the Jesus that they have is a historical figure, but you've been lied about his history. And the Jesus that you're looking for is prophetic, but the understanding of the prophecies, you've been lied about that as well, lied to about that as well. So we try to present information, facts, evidence from the teachings that we've received from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, combined with some of the arguments, some of the research and information of the so-called biblical scholars that the average preacher does not talk to his congregation about. So we believe, like the minister said in the book Torchlight for America, that America needs a spiritual revival. And we believe that it is the spiritual upliftment that has to be the cornerstone of all social change.
Yes, sir. Beautiful. And this was one question I didn't get a chance to ask you, but in your talking about this also sparked up another idea, and I'll talk to you off camera about the possibility to have a larger discussion about just the violence that is taking place in the Black communities among street organizations in different cities, right? But I want to ask you this, in the city of Chicago, from my research, it's often mentioned about how the Chicago street organizations were known for their hierarchy. They was known for their structure, pretty much more than LA, right? Yes. And some people are saying that the breakdown of the structure in the organizations there in Chicago is possibly contributing to the violence that we see and read about happening there. What are your thoughts about the root causes of the breakdown in these street organizations and the violence that we're seeing? We'll close out on that question.
Well, the short answer is, number one, of course, self-hatred. Mm-hmm. The second part of that is moral corruption. And so the enemy has worked among these organizations to allow the morally corrupt members to emerge with more influence and say so. So whenever there has been an effort in these major organizations in Chicago by the leadership, the main leadership, to try to keep or move the group toward something more morally correct, that is when you see the enemy's hand manifest itself in these groups. And so now it used to be each organization had constitution, laws, and whatnot that they had to know, they had to be able to recite, they had to follow these codes, right? And so leadership was not the wealthiest person. Most leadership were poor because they were committed to an ideal over money. Now we have a situation for the last 20 or so years where drug dealers have taken over. Drug culture has taken over the leadership of many of these organizations. And so the moral compass that they had in place in their history that would kind of you could reach them through their own moral codes. That almost doesn't exist anymore at all, because the enemy has used snitches, agents, plants, whatnot, to take over these organizations and allow them to be purveyors of guns and drugs in the community, knowing that the proceeds of these activities, the money from it, would allow them to buy status and overrule the more traditional leadership.
Wow, you just gave a perspective and an analyst on it that I often don't have not heard included, and that's why I think we definitely have to have a special segment here on NNV where we can get various perspectives, and I definitely would like you to be included. And the last question, is there anything you would like to share that you did not have an opportunity to share during the interview?
Well, I would say this. We have to mature as believers. We cannot achieve the mission being hyper dogmatic, believing that if somebody is not, wearing our costume, if somebody is not, a part of our tribe, if you will, that God has no use for them. The mission is to the lost found. And we cannot, we should, red flags should go off when we become incestuous, when we make everything about the registered believer. We make ourselves elitists. We have a role to play. There's value. God loves the registered believer, but he also loves the unregistered Muslim. He also is after the whole 40 million. And we have to be on guard. When the minister published and released and spoke about the release of the book titled The Torchlight for America, he instructed us as registered believers that when you read that book, every time you read America or the American government, insert Nation of Islam or mosque. And I think if we remember that, we will not allow the fact that Allah has chosen us, given us the opportunity to be a registered member under the leadership of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, to make us feel as we are so superior to the rest of our people that we can leave them behind. That if they're not in the mosque, they're not worth the time of day. If they're not joining on to us, we'll leave them behind. We must be that Muhammad that goes to the mountain, even when the mountain won't come to us. We must guard ourselves from throwing people away. We must guard ourselves from throwing even the registered Muslim away who may have a mistake, an error, or go through their trials and their tribulations. We are so quick to throw each other away that we need to change that, dear brother Willie, because Allah does not allow a human being to accept these teachings by accident. And we can reach many more who really don't even know that the minister exists. They don't even know about the Honorable. So many of our people have never heard the name of Farrakhan or Muhammad. We may not believe that, but I can take you in a lot of neighborhoods in Chicago where people don't, they just, nobody's ever taught them, dear brother.
Beautiful, man. And brother, like I said, talking to you on the phone and even in the introduction of this interview, how your reputation precedes you of being one who do work. And that's listening to your responses, and especially what you just said and watching how you move, I can see, brother, that from my perspective, that Allah has his hands on you, man. Continue to keep working, brother. Continue to keep doing, because you have touched many people. Some people you may not know that you have touched, but as I said, I came across people and it was Michael Muhammad. So may Allah continue to bless you. We're going to, inshallah, I would like to have the opportunity just to call you to pick your mind on some things, but we're going to have this discussion, have this greater discussion about this street violence that's taking place. So may Allah continue to bless you, brother. And we thank you for being patient with us as we work through these difficulties.
Having me, brother. Hey, after difficulty comes ease.
That's right.
I thank you. You and your team. You do a magnificent job with your show. It is so professional. It's so dignified. And I don't know if the minister's ever watched your show, but I'm willing to say that I'm going to be sure that he will be very proud of the work you're doing, brother Willie, and the spirit in which you do it. I thank Allah for your work, brother. I thank you for having me on. It was a privilege and an honor.
All praise due to Allah. We feel privileged and honored as well. Thank you. And inshallah, we'll be talking. And for those who are on, thank you all for staying through our difficulties. And thank you, Brother Musa, for locking it down and working through it as well. This is your brother Willie Muhammad with I Have a Testimony. Peace.
Go home and study. See, many of you don't study your religion. Go ahead. And you think you're going to attain something without study. But if you believe in something, you need to study it so you can become proficient in what you do. Now watch this. God came to us to seek and to save that which was lost. He raised a man from among us.
He, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, laid the foundation. What I'm doing is something that comes from him through me, and the thing that he uses in me to do the work is my faith in him and the word that he taught. To produce men and women who wanted to clean up their life and build an independent nation for the glory of God.